Oh my gosh, do I have so many questions for you. Okay, first of all, this is the first time Far Cry has ever had a direct sequel. Where did that decision come from? When did you guys decide that you wanted to, instead of going anywhere in the world to any imaginary country or, province that you could think of, you're like, we're heading back to Montana and we're going to blow it up first, though.
We decided to double down on Montana. We like to try and surprise the audience with each title. Finding a new surprising villain, but also new surprising situation. And when we were finishing Far Cry 5, we were hesitating on how we would conclude the game. And the idea of having this nuclear event was actually very appealing to us. And when we started to really consider it, we realized that it would also be a door that could be opened for a sequel. And also to get into a space where we could do a post-apocalyptic Far Cry, which is something we wanted to do for a long time. When you think about post-apocalypse, these lawless frontiers, this wildlife with lots of dangerous animals, and also groups of people fighting for survival, that's like Far Cry, and that's post-apocalypse. So all these elements together made us desire to do a sequel.
Nice. So, I gotta say, when I was playing Far Cry 5, I didn't see the nuclear fallout thing coming. It totally hit me out of left field. Were you guys already working on New Dawn in tandem with Far Cry 5? As it was being developed, were you guys creating this as well? Because this is coming out a little just about a year after 5, so obviously you've had some lead time on the development, right?
Yes, so it's a little bit a little bit more than a year and a half that we started considering Far Cry New Dawn. And that's when we decided for the ending of Far Cry 5, and we realized that there was this opportunity, and that's what we did. There were a little radio broadcasts in Far Cry 5 that were suggesting that there was this global conflict escalating that would lead to the global nuclear apocalypse. And we seeded this, and then we used it for a year after getting to Far Cry New Dawn.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up, because I was just talking with my friends the other day about this, and my friend had mentioned, if you paid attention, you would see all this nuclear escalation happening in the rest of the world as you're focused in on just a tiny speck of it, which made me curious. Was it the father that launched these missiles, or did he just happen to coincidentally be right about when a nuclear apocalypse would occur?
I think the father was part of these people that were scared that something like that could happen, but no, he didn't launch the nukes. There was a global nuclear warfare that occurred, and in a matter of days, thousands of bombs were dropped all across the northern hemisphere and generated that situation that we get to live 17 years after.
That's really interesting, because now it feels like you've really changed the dynamic of who the father is for this sequel as well. He was sort of this megalomaniac prophet that expected the world to turn out a certain way, and now it's not that way. So I'm very curious how that plays into the overall story arc, because you've kind of got this has-been villain versus these two new modern villains that are just trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world.
Far Cry New Dawn, it's really the struggle in between the survivors that are trying to rebuild the world and the highwaymen that are living for the day, thinking that maybe tomorrow is gone, so they have to just do whatever. But in the middle of that, you have New Eden, led by Joseph Seed. And what I liked to do with this is that actually the world is in a space that presents an opportunity for Joseph Seed and his cult. It's an opportunity to try and build a world that would not fall into the same mistakes as the one we did. So they actually are refusing all technology. They're living in the north like 16th century trappers, and they have their own ways. And I love to have this group in the middle of the two others and how it creates an interesting dynamic in the game. And also, Father is not the enemy anymore. He has changed, he's matured, he's wiser.
Now, the one thing that we haven't really talked about is, do you run into the hero from Far Cry 5? Because at the end of it, you're dragged into the bunker with the father, and you're just sort of left there to wait it out. So does your previous character factor into this game at all?
just want to say that one of the hardest things in development in this game was to juggle with the things from Far Cry 5 to make sure that we made connections and people would be happy to see these little nods and how we conclude also the story of Far Cry 5. But at the same time, we wanted it to be a game that you could play without having played Far Cry 5, like your own Far Cry apocalyptic game. But to answer your question, the deputy is absolutely in the game, but I can't tell you. You need to play to see what we did with that character.
Fair enough, I can handle that. So there seems to be a lot of vibrant colors. You know, the color scheme isn't really what you associate with nuclear apocalypse. You look at games like Fallout and they're all just gray and bland and bleak. You have a really colorful world. You have a world that's even more colorful than 5 was, you know, in a lot of ways. And the villains are all wearing vibrant colors. They're not wearing, like, you know, dark anything, you know. It's really different from what you see in a lot of games as far as just the way that you've, like, selected the palette.
It started with a simple desire. Let's make a post-apocalyptic world that would be inviting, vibrant and beautiful. And we did our studies. We looked at what could happen in such situation after the nuclear winter. And because there's less human population, because the survivors, they're underground, nature would actually come back and take over. And that would lead to having a lot of vegetation, a lot of blooming. And that's the direction we took. And then also for the vibrant colors of men or human, that was also the desire. Let's bring plastic stuff like the tarps, like and also metallic containers, all the things from our past lives that would have survived for 17 years and would create pop of colors. Let's make something that feels good, in which we could tell horrible stories, but in a space in which you could spend hours and still be like marveled by the beauty.
There seems to be like as the Far Cry series progresses, almost nihilistic outlook on a lot of things. Even the endings seem to be sort of bleak. Is this game almost seems like you're trying to inspire hope for a new generation? Is that deliberate, or are we just going to end up being like life? It is what it is at the end of all this.
Well, I'm French, so life is shit. No, but you're absolutely right. Far Cry 5 we had a kind of a bleak approach to it, and this one, New Dawn, it's the rebirth, it's the opportunity to have a new world and actually bring a more positive message. And the game is actually about generations. There is Nick and Kim Rai with their daughter Carmina. They are coming from our world. They know what we lost, and she doesn't have the same worldview. And that's the same with the father and some of the new characters that you will discover. And that's the same with the twins and their family also. So we have a lot of generational question in this game and thematics that we wanted to approach and try to make it more positive, yes.
Speaking of generations, Herc Jr. Yeah, is he around? Did he make it? That was like my one concern at the end of Far Cry 5. I was worried about Cheeseburger and I was worried about Herc.
So I just spoiled something by saying Blade. Okay, Herc is alive. By the way, I wouldn't see a Far Cry without Herc. So he's there. He's cousin to Sharky. And actually Herc had a baby. And he's called Blade, based on the most badass character in the movie story, according to Herc.
Nice, that's super cool. I'm glad that the sense of humor still shines through no matter what. You know, it's always been prevalent. And basically starting with 3 in a lot of ways, you know, like there's all this horror and chaos going around, but there are so many moments where you just laugh out loud at like some of the over-the-top stuff that you get into.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we started with Far Cry 3. I think it's important. It's a bit like life. You have moments that are absolutely terrible and difficult to go through, and then there are also moments that are fun. And we try to have a cast of characters and situation that kind of reflects that. Yes, absolutely.
And then you've also got like a bunch of over-the-top weapons and action and violence as well. So what are you hoping that people take away at the end of Far Cry New Dawn? Like, what are you hoping that people get from the experience?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question. I would say that what I talked about, the generational stuff, you know, like how do you see the world when you've lost everything, and how do you see the world when actually that's something that for you feels like beautiful and new and full of new opportunities. Thematically speaking, I think that's the game. Now, gameplay-wise, the scarcity of the world, the fact that you need to survive every day, it pushed us in direction that I think are really affecting the way you play Far Cry. You know, having the need to look around to get resources, to craft weapons, the fact that enemies now are more resilient, and that you have to be a little bit more cautious, and how it veers the experience into something that's super cool to play in co-op. I think that I hope people will discover the hectic situation that we created with the outpost escalation and expedition. I hope they see that and they enjoy it, because it brings the action of Far Cry at another level.